Hey everyone, my name is Michaela, and for this project, my partner was Sasha. We decided to do a lesson about shapes. The name of our lesson is Shapes and Shapes of All Kinds. The standard that we chose to cover was third grade geometry standard 3.G1, which involves drawing, being able to draw, describe, and identify triangles, quadrilaterals, such as rhombuses, rectangles, and squares, and polygons with up to 8 sides, based on the number of sides and the presence or absence of square corners, which we know as right angles. Here's a lesson overview. At the beginning of the lesson, the teacher will give anticipation guides for the start of class about shapes so the students can see if they have any prior knowledge about shapes and to give them an idea of what it is expected to be learned in class. Students will go over how to identify each type of shape by discussing each shape's special properties with the teacher and creating a list of those shapes to use in the creation of a concept map. Special properties of shapes include side lengths and square angle measurements. When students have a general understanding of the shapes themselves, the teacher will present MindMup, which is the tool that we decided to use, on an overhead smartboard to interactively build a concept map with the students. The students will work together to tell the teacher which shape belongs in which category, taking turns on the smartboard to create the concept map. So they'll be interacting with MindMup and the smartboard. It won't just be the teacher. The students will place shapes into categories as well as add pictures to match using the different nodes on MindMup. Once the concept map is filled with shapes in the correct places, students will identify and draw each shape on worksheets. Using MindMup as an information resource, it'll be left on the board so students won't be left to, guess. They will also be asked to name an object that they know in the real world that has the same shape as those listed on their worksheet. Next, we'll cover the Triple E considerations that we decided to include in our project here. What features of MindMup have elements of engagement? We decided to put our engagement score as a 5 out of 6. The use of MindMup to concept map shapes in this lesson will be a full class activity. The teacher will engage the class as a whole to fill out the concept map, which may allow students to become mildly distracted during discussion. The teacher will use attention grabbers such as repeat after me, a triangle has 3 sides, which will help keep students focused on the task and the activity at hand, which is time on task. This technology allows students to interact as a class and discuss what they think qualifies a shape as a quadrilateral, triangle, or polygon, which motivates them to engage and begin the learning process through that classroom discussion. Instead of being a passive learner, students will be actively engaged with the tech and in discussion with classmates regarding which shape goes to which category and which helps build their skills as social learners. The instructional strategies that we could add to elements of engagement would be the teacher will give a guided tour of MindMup so students know how to use it. This will make it easier for students to use MindMup as a tool for learning instead of just playing with it to figure out how the software works. The teacher will also monitor the students during the class to make sure that the students are staying focused and asking time on task questions to make sure that the students are learning the information. The students will also co-use the smartboard to interact with MindMup. Each student will have a turn to contribute to the concept map. The teacher will also implement gradual release of learning. At the beginning of the class, there will be focused instruction when the teacher goes over the different shapes and their unique properties. The guided instruction and collaborative learning happen when the teacher demonstrates the use of MindMup, and students also participate in learning the software. The students collaboratively learn during the class discussion to create the map. Lastly, students will learn independently when they use the concept map that they've created to fill out their own worksheets at the end of class. What features of MindMup have elements of enhancement, which is the second part of the Triple E framework? We decided to give an enhancement score of 4 out of 6. MindMup would allow students to develop a more sophisticated understanding of the learning goals by letting them see the shapes and learn to identify them. There is minimal real world application involved, which can somewhat hinder higher order thinking skills. It provides support for students to conceptualize the shapes and put them into correct categories. Students can personalize by choosing different node colors, choosing to use photos, videos, or other resources within the map to help them learn the different concepts. However, a similar type of mapping can also be done with pencil and paper, which is a traditional tool, but MindMap adds the advantage of real-time hyperlinks, digital photographs, which helps with time management, time efficiency. MindMap adds the technology aspect into the lesson and allows for students to work as a class to learn the shapes. The instructional strategies that we could add for the element of enhancement would be students will be expected to be actively listening. They will be given opportunities to ask questions along the way if something they don't understand is mentioned. At the beginning of the lesson, they will be given anticipation guides to look over so they know what to expect for class that day and to activate any prior knowledge they may have about the shapes. The students are welcome and encouraged to take time before the lesson begins to look over the guides. And these guides will ease students into the lesson and let them know what to expect. After they've had the opportunity to look over the papers, the teacher will begin the first part of the lesson. And once the students have an understanding of the shapes, they will enter the interactive part of the lesson. Predicting will be important during the we do portion of the class, which is when the teacher sits down with the class to create the concept map. After the teacher introduces shapes to the students, it's their job, with the teacher's help, to put the shapes into the correct categories using MindMap. Next, we move on to the extension of learning goals. What features of MindMap extend the learning goals? The technology can create opportunities for students to learn outside of their typical school day, but it is limited. If students have their own individual accounts, they can work on the concept maps at home to further their understanding of the concepts at hand, but that does require a membership. The technology can also create a bridge between school and everyday life depending on the application. In this lesson, the teacher can add photos of real world examples to things like squares and rectangles and triangles, which will allow students to make more connections in their brain to the content being taught. MindMap can also help build authentic life skills. Concept mapping is very good for organization skills, which is something that they can use for the rest of their elementary, middle school, and high school careers. It can even be used in college. I know I've had to make concept maps, and it's very useful to know how to do. Instructional strategies to extend the learning goals. We decided to have a worksheet that they can fill out at the end of the class. So, in order to help students better remember the shapes, they will have a worksheet to fill out. When they draw each shape, they must also create a list of shapes that they know in the real world that have the same shape. The use of MindMap is not only important to help these students learn shapes, but it's a tool that can be used in everyday life to organize thoughts or even create schedules. It can be used in almost any subject in school as well. And that is how MindMap can be integrated into a lesson and follow the EEE framework.